Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor. Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2025 Candidates Night, sponsored by WCTV and the Wilmington Apple. My name is Jonathan Eaton, and I will be your moderator for this evening's event. Tonight, you're going to hear from some of the candidates that are vying for your vote at the upcoming town election on Saturday, April 26th. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. This year, on the town ballot, there will be 5 races. Gwen Harper-Lawson is running unopposed for a 3-year term on the Shawshene Valley Technical High School Committee. Anne Marie Hill is running unopposed for a 5-year term on the Wilmington Housing Authority, and Tom Siracusa is running unopposed for a 3-year term on the Wilmington Housing Authority. Later tonight, we're going to be hearing from the 3 candidates vying for 2 3-year terms in the Select Board. But first, we're going to be hearing from some of the candidates vying for 3 3-year terms on the Wilmington School Committee. Those candidates are Stephen Turner and Jesse Fennelly. Rebecca Lord and Mallory Mahoney are also running for school committee, but were unable to attend tonight's event. Nevertheless, we will continue. Let me introduce you to tonight's media panel. We have Peter Currier from the Lowell Sun, Lizzie Hill from the Town Crier, and Robert Hayes from the Wilmington Apple. I want to thank Mark Kratman from the Wilmington Tewksbury Chamber of Commerce for volunteering to serve as tonight's timekeeper. Now, just briefly, let me outline the format for tonight's event. First, we're going to hear each candidate deliver a 2-minute opening statement. Then, our panelists are going to ask our candidates 9 questions for which they will have up to 90 seconds to respond. At my discretion, I can allow a candidate to address a comment that was made mentioning their name for up to 30 seconds, but personal attacks will not be tolerated. Finally, each candidate will deliver a closing statement for up to 90 seconds. And so, without further ado, why don't we get right into it? The order for tonight's event was chosen by random draw earlier tonight, and Mr. Turner will go first. The questions were not shared before tonight's event. We will first hear an opening statement from Mr. Turner.
Good evening. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Stephen Turner, currently a member of the Wilmington School Committee, and I'm running for re-election. I'm running because of the passion I have for public education in Wilmington, and I believe I bring some important qualities that will really benefit and continue to benefit the Wilmington public education. So in terms of qualities, my background, I'm a career professional in the software industry, working in finance and accounting, and then later in customer contract negotiations and now in strategic planning. That background has given me the ability to look at things from a very big picture level all the way on down into the details and understanding the nuance of different topics. I also bring, as a current member of the committee, an important experience. I've been an active member of the committee the last 3 years. I've been a member of the Wildwood School Building Committee, a member of the Budget Subcommittee, and the Town Hall School Admin Building Committee, most recently serving on the Interim Superintendent Search Committee, and working through the search process with the existing committee, which is a really good background and preparation for our upcoming search for a permanent superintendent. Beyond that, I have a very strong support for all of the educators and staff, the people who do the frontline work with our children. Everything they do every day is to support our children, and everything we do as a school committee is to support them. I bring a very strong commitment to the students. When we are talking about, for example, the potential for a new building, everything we do and everything we decide in that sort of top conversation needs to start from student needs and then focusing on how the educators meet those student needs and how we in the new building could potentially meet those needs as well. And then the last piece is passion. I have a very strong passion for public education. Public education is a cornerstone of our community, it's a cornerstone of our nation, and it is the foundation for every child in our country. Thank you.
Mr. Fennelly.
Thank you, and good evening. I want to start very briefly by thanking WCTV for hosting, our panelists for what I'm sure are going to be some great questions, Mr. Eaton for agreeing to moderate, our off-camera timekeeper, Mr. Kratman, thank you for being here, and of course, it's always a pleasure to spend an evening with my colleague, Mr. Turner. My name is Jesse Fennelly, and I'm running for re-election to the Wilmington School Committee. I've spent the last 6 years as a member of the school committee and had the distinct honor of serving as chair for this past year. I'm running because I believe in public service and I believe in public education. I have 2 children, both of whom are students currently at the Wilmington Middle School. And so the school committee is a role that provides me an opportunity to serve my community while ensuring that my kids and through that all of our students get the best education possible. I also believe that the committee has some items of unfinished business that I'm hoping to see through to completion. As the community knows, we just recently hired an interim superintendent who will guide us for the next year, but we'll begin a permanent superintendent search in the fall. We are hiring currently a finance director due to a retirement of our assistant superintendent of administration and finance, who's led our district for nearly 20 years. And with the level of financial uncertainty at both the federal and state level, I think that position is going to be crucial for us. We are currently negotiating with 3 of our 4 bargaining units. I represent the school committee on one of those. We have several other administrative positions that need to be filled. And of course, we're seeking the approval and construction of 1, hopefully 2, new consolidated elementary schools. Tonight, you, the viewers, will get to hear different thoughts and opinions on how we move forward. And I look forward to that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner will hear the first question from Peter Courier of the Lowell Sun.
Thank you so much. As I think both of you mentioned, the school committee will soon be tasked with choosing a new superintendent for Wilmington Public Schools. What do you think the ideal qualities and priorities should be for that new superintendent?
Thank you for the question. There are 2 different topics there. One of them is the topic of the current interim superintendent. And the interim superintendent, there are some top things we were really looking for in that position. We were looking for somebody who could help facilitate our current projects, particularly considering we have the vote coming up in September, the MSBA project. The following through on the strategic plan, and as Mr. Fennelly mentioned, the importance of several new hires we have in the district. So in addition to the Director of Finance, we have a Director of Student Support Services. The middle school principal was an interim, is now permanent. And that combination of different roles will need a lot of support from the interim and then moving into the long-term position. Similarly, carrying forward with our strategic plan, hopefully at that point in time we'll be in the middle of a building project and following that through and making sure in the building project, one of the fundamental things is going to be that things will come up, and how do we handle the trade-offs of the building project to make sure the educational needs are continually met as we go through that building project. But then again, providing leadership. We've been really fortunate the last 7 years with Dr. Brandt. We've made a lot of great progress. The critical thing for the next superintendent is to continue that progress forward and keep us moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Mr. Fennelly?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. Sort of building off, I think, what Mr. Turner was saying towards the end of his comment, we've been very fortunate in this district to have the leadership that Dr. Brand brought for the last 6-7 years. And so really, I think looking at a new superintendent and the qualities that that person brings, the three kind of main components that jump out to me is mentorship, right? We, as Mr. Turner mentioned, we'll have several new administrators in the district, and somebody who can coach those folks, that can bring the best out of them, I think is going to be incredibly important. We've had, I think, some well-documented challenges at the middle school over the last 5 to 10 years, and I think Mr. Caira is in a great place to succeed, and with some mentorship, I think we hopefully have turned the corner at the middle school. Financial stewardship, again, especially with Mr. Ruggiero's departure, school finances are tricky, and they make up a significant portion of a town's budget. And so a superintendent candidate who has experience with that is going to be crucial for us. And lastly, I think community engagement, because it's going to be really important with the new school project and that construction project notwithstanding, that a superintendent is able to make connections with community groups, with the PACs and the building committees and folks in the district whose families are impacted by what happens at the school level. I think it's going to be important that there's some buy-in. So those would be the three main qualities I'd look for in a new superintendent.
Thank you. Mr. Fennelly, you're going to hear the second question from Lizzie Hill of the Wilmington Town Crier.
Thank you.
What would you say to someone who might be watching tonight who would say that perhaps the new elementary school in town is too expensive, especially, or maybe in particular, the $12 million gym, because of the tax burden that might put on residents?
Thank you. I think it's a great question and a fair question. Specifically to the gym, I understand the argument behind the cost is too high, or the cost is too high argument, I should say. We are potentially going to lose several gym spaces if the buildings are if the reuse committee decides to move away from having gyms in those buildings. So including a larger facility in the new school, I think, makes a lot of sense from the community's perspective. For the question to the larger finances, I would say it is not an insignificant price tag. However, when you consider what it would cost to retrofit and upkeep the three current failing schools, the Wildwood alone would be a significant cost to retrofit. That it's a difficult expense up front, but in the long run, it's going to save this community several millions of dollars. And so I think while it's difficult, it's the smart financial decision.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, and as Mr. Fennelly said, there's a lot to be discussed about this, and it is a really important question, and it's fundamental to where we are as a district. We could repair the three buildings. However, if we repair the buildings to get them to be to the point where they could last for 50 years, the cost to repair the three buildings without any educational improvements would exceed the cost of building one new building. So fundamentally, we could, but it would cost more and give us much, much less. And particularly, the most important purpose of a school in the first place, much less for the students. The buildings we have are old, but they're also designed in a very different time of education. So fundamentally, the spaces do not work for what we need in education. The spaces are, we use the space we have, but we use it in ways it wasn't designed for. So there's a lot of things that go into education, particularly around special education, particularly around servicing children that need reading support or math support or those sorts of topics, that those buildings aren't built for and aren't suited for. So we can spend more and get buildings that will last 50 years but don't meet educational needs, or we could spend slightly less and get buildings a brand new building designed for the purpose and to meet all the educational needs of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. You're going to receive the third question from Robert Hayes of the Wilmington Apple.
Good evening, Mr. Turner. So last July, the school committee explored the possibility of implementing user fees for athletics at Wilmington High School. In the presentation, it was noted that 8 of the 11 other Middlesex League schools already have athletic user fees. The majority of Wilmington's neighbors, including Andover, Billerica, Reading, North Reading, and Tewksbury, also have athletic user fees. And in fact, the Tewksbury School Committee just last night discussed significantly raising their fees gradually over each of the next 3 school years. So as of last July, Wilmington spends approximately $122,000 annually on athletic transportation costs. A modest user fee of $150 per sport is estimated to generate $125,000 per year, which, wouldn't you know, would cover the $122,000 transportation cost. Wilmington's athletic director back in July said the landscape of youth sports has greatly changed over the past 25 years. Most families that have an athlete entering the high school level have played for either a club or AAU team and paid a large fee for participation. So the question, I'm really good at these long-winded questions. So the question is, at some point over your next 3-year term, can Wilmington parents expect to start having to pay a fee for their children to play high school sports, or can we get a no new sports user fee pledge from both of you tonight?
That is a fantastic question. Thank you for it. I appreciate it. Now, if it's a long-winded question, do I get more time for a long-winded answer?
I should clarify, Mr. Hayes, you're limited to 90 seconds.
Thank you. So that's a good question, and it is a topic we've discussed, and there are places where Wilmington does not charge fees that other towns do. And it's not just athletic fees, it's also bus fees. So there are places in our budget where we have historically done that. And it is something we do talk about. It's something we do explore, and it is a trade-off. The trade-offs are, one, I'm going to combine both answers because I think they're both relevant in the same sort of way. So bus fees, for example, we want children on the buses. That helps with the overall flow of traffic in town. And it's a way to make sure we can facilitate the movement of the children around town, particularly with our 8 schools right now. So there's an added benefit to the town. It is also, for both fees, one of those things people talk about when they come to Wilmington. You know, they talk about the schools when oh, wow, you don't have fees. We don't have fees for other things in town as well. Now, specific to athletics, yes, we could. The downside to it is one of equity and it's one of engagement. Right now, almost half the students in Wilmington High School participate in sports. And it's a really important number. We're not a particularly large high school, but having that number of students participate means we have a lot of teams. And we're able to be competitive with those teams. If we charge the fee, we do risk not having to be able to field the teams, which would be a detriment to the students. As long as we can avoid it, reasonably, fiscally, responsibly, I would strongly support not charging fees. If there's a point in time when the choice is fees or firing a teacher, we would charge fees. Thank you.
Fennelly?
Yeah, thank you. Another great question, Mr. Hayes. I'll start sort of at the beginning, I think, or start at the end and work my way back. I would not say 100% that we won't charge athletic fees. But I think I agree with the direction Mr. Turner was going in that we've been very fortunate as a district with our budgets over the last, at the very least, the last 6 years since I've been on the committee. We've done a great job at maintaining services without having to charge fees. If it were to come down to a discussion around potential staff reductions or program reductions versus athletic fees or transportation fees, then certainly it's something we would explore. And in fact, I said in a school committee meeting not that long ago that we have been fortunate, but we may not always be that fortunate. So, you know, I think we have to keep all of our options on the table. I don't necessarily support fees. I don't want fees. I think it's great that our students are able to participate in athletics without fees. But I also think it raises an important question of if you start considering athletic fees, do you then start considering drama fees or band fees or, you know, so broadly speaking, no, I hope we don't ever have to charge students fees, but I would consider it in the alternative, if the alternative was staff and program reductions.
Thank you. Mr. Fennelly, you're going to receive the 4th question from Peter Courier of the Lowell Sun.
Thank you.
All right. The school committee is currently in negotiations with, I'm told, 4 unions. Please correct me if I get any of these wrong. Teachers, educational assistants, administrative assistants, and nurses. Between those and the hiring of a new superintendent, how should the school committee navigate what could be a challenging budget season in a time when a lot of school districts are facing challenging budget seasons?
Great question again. And I will say the nurses have not started their negotiations quite yet. So we are currently negotiating with 3 of the 4. Look, any negotiation is going to be challenging. And I think, we as a committee and as a community want our teachers, our educators, our staff to have the best of everything, the best facilities, the best resources, and the best salaries, quite frankly. I think, universally, teachers and educators are underpaid. But I also recognize that our budget is the largest portion of the town's budget, and that with sort of competing costs, the cost of special education is rising at a rate that's outpacing many other things that go into a school budget. We are a people business. Our budget is 80 some odd % staff. And so we are elected to be good stewards of the taxpayers' resources. So I would say I approach it as wanting to be generous while being responsible.
Mr. Turner.
Thank you. I appreciate the question and certainly Mr. Fennelly's responses as well. So it is a challenging topic, but we're fortunate right now that we have good relationship with our unions. Dr. Brand and the union head have worked very well together. That is one of the important things that we did listen for with the interim superintendent searches, is how they've done with union negotiations in their recent past. It was an important factor in our decision as well. But it is a difficult topic in that, as everyone knows, there's constraints on town budgets. And those constraints really do impact us. As was mentioned, a huge portion of our budget is the people costs, the costs related to salary. Part of what's interesting about our budget is consistently over the last several years, many years, our operating budget for expenses, non-people expenses, has been well below inflation. This last year it was 1%. And so we are dedicating more and more resources every year to the people, which is clearly important. The educators are the fundamental to everything we do. We need to do as much as we can by them, but we do have a strong fiscal responsibility as well. And so it is a continuous balance of that, but also making sure that the unions and the teachers and the other educators know that we support them and want to do as well as we can by them within all those other constraints as well. Thank you.
Staying on you, Mr. Turner, you'll receive the 5th question from Lizzie Hill of the Wilmington Town Crier.
What would you want to see done to continue to improve upon the middle school culture?
Very good question. Thank you very much. And that is one of the topics we've been working on a lot on the school committee and Dr. Brand and the rest of the central office as well. The middle school has had its share of challenges, certainly had a lot of turnover, and then recently we've hired Mr. Caira, which does feel like a really good step in the right direction. We noticed a lot of culture change this year and a lot more of an environment that is the right type of environment for middle schoolers. Middle schoolers are at such an interesting age. And it's generally true that in every district, the toughest school is the middle school. One of the things that we have going for us is our interim superintendent spent many years as a middle school principal. So he brings to the table, part of the mentoring we've both mentioned, he brings to the table that experience and had some really good successes in his case. So leveraging Dr. Thompson as a resource for Mr. Caira will be one of those key things. There also were some initiatives taken in the last couple of years. The No Place for Hate program is just started. It's a student-led program on culture, which is kind of one of the really cool things you can do at the middle school and high school level. You can have student-led programs, and those end up being the most impactful. So it's that combination of things: the new leadership in the building, the student-led initiatives to support good culture, and then new leadership, in addition to all that Dr. Brand has done, with Dr. Thompson coming in, providing his take on middle school education as well, I think is a really important step for the future for the district.
Thank you. I think the challenge with one of these things is that Stephen, Mr. Turner and I are in alignment with a lot of these things. So, I said it at the beginning. The middle school in Wilmington has had its fair share of challenges over the last several years. And as a parent of 2 middle school students, I've been in that building recently, and the change in the air is palpable. The building has a positive feel to it. I think Mr. Caira getting the support and the mentorship he deserves is gonna continue to grow the culture at the middle school. The programs like No Place for Hate, starting from the students, is terrific. And I think another really important component from folks that I've spoken with in the community is that the teachers in the building, for the first time in a long time, feel seen, they feel heard, they feel supported. And so when, sort of all of those groups, from the administration to the teachers to the staff to the students, all feel the culture shifting and feel seen, feel heard, feel appreciated, feel validated, middle school is always going to be a tough time. But I think the changes that are happening at the middle school are going to certainly not eliminate, but minimize some of those impacts. So I'm excited and optimistic to see the next few years in the middle school.
Thank you. Our sixth question tonight comes from Robert Hayes of the Wilmington Apple, and it goes to Mr. Fennelly.
Good evening, Mr. Fennelly. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Hayes. Terrific. How are you?
All right.
All right.
Start the timer, Mark. Back in October, Superintendent Brand put together a cell phone use committee to develop new policies, procedures, and expectations regarding the use of cell phones in schools for Wilmington students. The committee researched how other districts were tackling the issue and recently surveyed parents, staff, and students on the topic. The committee is set, or I believe is set, to issue their report and recommendations on or around April 30th. In the meantime, back in January, the Study Act was introduced into the Massachusetts legislature and has the backing of Attorney General Andrea Campbell. The Study Act would require all public schools to have formal policies regarding the use of cell phones, tablets, and other personal electronic devices on school grounds and at school-sponsored activities. Specifically, each policy must prevent students from physically accessing their personal electronic devices during school hours. The Attorney General calls it a bell-to-bell restriction. Exemptions to the policy would be made in rare cases, generally involving accommodations for students with IEPs. Sure. So this proposed law is going much further than I think the Cell Phone Use Committee was likely going to have originally gone. It's a one-size-fits-all ban for every public school at every grade level. You ready? The question.
I'm ready.
Would you support an outright ban of cell phone use in schools like the proposed law would require? Why or why not? And in your opinion, what would the ideal cell phone use policy look like in Wilmington at the high school level, at the middle school level, and at the elementary school level?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am excited to see the results of the survey data. I am excited to see the final sort of recommendations from the cell phone work group. I would probably struggle with an outright ban because I think there are nuances to everything. I would suggest that I think I've always struggled a little bit with the idea of cell phones in classrooms in a one-to-one district. I mean, every student theoretically has a Chromebook, and the argument that we need it for class, I struggle with that one a little bit. So I lean towards a cell phone policy that restricts cell phone use in the class for high school and middle school students. While I do think there needs to be some overlap at like the 5th grade level, I also know that there are significantly fewer students who have cell phones at that age. So, do I support an outright ban? No. I am, as a member of the policy subcommittee, however, excited to look at what a policy that says no cell phones in class would be for students. So, yeah, no outright ban for me, but I do think we need to restrict cell phones in classrooms, certainly. So, thank you.
Thank you for the questions. So, and as Mr. Fennelly mentioned earlier, there's a lot of what he just said that I completely agree with. So I come at it from a couple different points of view. The first place I come at from is that teachers today spend a lot of time monitoring cell phones. And that's not time they can spend educating. It's not time and energy they can spend on their passion of educating. And so I've always struggled with that particular aspect of it. We want our teachers to be able to teach. We want the kids to be able to focus. And cell phones distract from that. I certainly believe, and I've seen districts where they have different policies at different grade cohorts. And having a policy that's particularly strict at middle school when they're learning and they're still learning about themselves makes a lot of sense. Having a policy in high school that might be more flexible because of jobs and picking up siblings and other things like that, maybe at lunch or things like that they're allowed, makes sense. And in 5th grade and 4th grade, where the teachers have the students the whole day, they have a little bit better sense of how to manage that space. And so maybe it's different there as well. And what that all gets to is there is nuance to the different grades. And I would be okay with nuance. An outright ban is tough. If it comes from the state, we'll figure out how to apply it. But if we don't, and if it comes from the district, the number one thing is making sure it's something that everyone buys into. If parents don't buy in, they'll help their kids get around it. If students don't buy in, they'll find ways around it. If teachers don't buy in, they won't be able to implement it. It needs to be something they can enforce without having to spend time enforcing it. And it needs to be something that other people are comfortable with. And so there's a lot to that question, and I'm really curious to see what comes out of the state level. Thank you.
The 7th question tonight comes from Peter Courier of the Lowell Sun. Mr. Turner will go first.
All right, a fun one for you guys. School districts across the country are grappling with potential losses of federal funding, the dismantling of the Department of Education, and pressure from the federal government over things like DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, for those who don't know. How should Wilmington Public Schools respond to that, if at all?
Thank you for the question. It is a really important one today, and it's one that, as you said, everyone is thinking about, everyone is curious about. And my answer comes from a couple different places. Excuse me. One, we don't know yet what the statements from the federal government actually mean in a lot of cases. Some of their statements are kind of vague and nebulous. Two, most federal things flow through the state. So as things happen at the federal level, particularly with funding, we need to understand how the state would respond. And then we would be able to understand how we could respond. So us reacting today at a local level to what's happening at the federal level is premature. It is possible that the state just simply passes through and says, okay, they cut that, we're cutting that. Then we've got some big issues to deal with on a funding level potentially, particularly around special education and some of those topics. The federal government does help, but we don't know yet. And so we need to wait and see. It is certainly disconcerting, and it's certainly very concerning as someone passionate about public education that the federal government is looking to take funding out of the system, and particularly the safeguards of the IEP and 504 process and all the things that have come out of the Department of Education over the last many years that really are about safeguarding children's needs. That's the place where money, at the end of the day, we'll have to figure it out. And it could be dramatically impacted, it could be otherwise, we won't know. But what we need to do is if they start to take away the safeguards, we will need the state to make sure that those safeguards are in place. We'll certainly try to keep with them, but it is something that does come from a common understanding of how we need to educate all of our children.
Thank you. So there's a couple of questions in that question. The federal funding piece, certainly I think Wilmington doesn't receive a huge amount of federal dollars. However, sort of to the point Mr. Turner made, I look at the whole picture and say, well, okay, if there are significant Medicaid cuts made and then the state has to pick that up, does that then translate into less education funding? And so there are some nuances to that. They are concerning regardless, but I think the whole picture sort of needs to play out before we're not at the point where we need to make any decisions. The Department of Education and sort of the funding around IEPs and 504s, that I find concerning, especially given the cost of special education continues to grow year over year. And the last part of your question had to do with DEI, and so I guess I would say to that, regardless of DEI funding programs, what they call it at the federal level, what they don't call it at the federal level. In my opinion, in Wilmington, schools should be places where students feel safe, they feel secure, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they don't have to worry about being themselves.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our eighth question tonight will come from Lizzie Hill from the Wilmington Town Crier. Mr. Fennelly will go first.
Thank you. Excuse me.
How do you think the school committee can improve communication and participation with parents and guardians?
Good question.
Thank you for the question. We have talked about that a few times, and I think that's one of the areas that, and I think our colleagues would agree, we can improve. I think for us as committee members currently, and hopefully after this coming election, I think it's important that we start sort of getting back out into the community, right? We talked several months ago about the idea of doing community forums and office hours, and making ourselves available to families, to students if they're interested, to discuss issues, to discuss topics that they're interested in or concerned about, if they're feeling uneasy about some of the things that are happening at the federal level. Like, we're public servants, and while our emails are there and most of us have Facebook pages and we talk to constituents at Market Basket, that's great, and none of the members of the committee would ever not make themselves available, but I think doing so in a more sort of thought out, intentional way, I think would go a long way. And so that's something we've talked, like I said, we've talked about in the past, and if reelected, would commit to seriously exploring in the next term.
Mr. Turner?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And it is an important one, and it's been part of it was part of our new strategic plan. It's been a consistent part of Dr. Brandt's goals. And the communication topic has been one where there's been good progress made, because it has been something we've been talking about, but certainly there's room for more. And part of it is also being more consistent across the schools. We had one school that tried the more is better approach to communication, and it was not better because it was too much and it was not well timed. But having consistent approach, Mr. Gendron at the high school now has a weekly newsletter that comes out at the same time every week, and it's got the history behind it. So if you miss one, you can just keep scrolling down and read the newsletter. That type of consistent approach, and being consistent across the schools, so as parents move across the district, they understand what to expect, is really helpful. Having consistent newsletter from the district, and then some of the programs like the Wildcat Corner that Dr. Brandt has done here at WCTV is a really good outreach way. And so there's a combination of things the districts can do. And as Mr. Fennelly said, us as a school committee, we've been talking about some different ideas. Should we have a single liaison for each of the different schools or something of that sort as a way to make ourselves more available? But it's one of those topics where there's a lot of different options. And part of what's interesting about the interim superintendent and a potential permanent one next year is they have their own ideas as well. And so similarly, the interim superintendent we've hired, Dr. Thompson, has a podcast he does. Right. And it's similar to the Wildcat Corner concept of a regular but more thematic sort of conversation that you can have for the community. People can listen to it whenever they want to. So there's a lot to be done in communication, but it's also being thoughtful about how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Turner, you're going to receive the ninth and final question first from Robert Hayes at the Wilmington Apple.
So one of Superintendent Brandt's goals this year was to oversee specific efforts designed to enhance the district's overall school safety planning and preparedness efforts. So a district safety audit was conducted back in December. Findings were shared with the police and fire departments in January, and then those results were compiled into an improvement plan and shared with the district safety committee recently. In addition to routine ALICE drills, a new reunification planning training called the I Love You Guys training was completed a few months ago, and the schools, police, and fire departments are conducting some sort of tabletop exercise this spring. It may have actually even happened this month, I'm not quite sure. So all positive things. Meanwhile, back in December, Dr. Brand proposed that the district adopt a policy restricting public access to school grounds, such as fields, playgrounds, courts, parking lots, during school hours. He wanted to make it effective this spring, right now. He said at the time, over the past few school years, the use of school grounds by the public during school hours has increased safety concerns and has proven challenging for our staff to manage, end quote. So despite that, Dr. Brand's proposal got some pushback from multiple school committee members, and as best I can tell, was never actually voted on, and the policy was never changed. It was one of the few times, besides the school year calendar, where I can remember the school committee actually having a public disagreement over the past 12 months. So the question, should the Wilmington taxpayers be allowed to use school grounds during school hours? And can you assure Wilmington parents that Wilmington schools are truly safe if strangers are permitted to use the fields, playgrounds, courts, parking lots, and other areas of the school grounds during the school day?
Got it. Thank you for the questions. Now, I appreciate the question, and there's a lot to that topic, and that was one of his goals this year. And it is safety in public schools is an incredibly important topic. But it's also one of those topics you always work on. You never get, oh, we're done with safety. So, and all of our buildings with their ages and with their configurations all have their unique sorts of things. So yes, we did the safety audit working with a group within the Federal Department of Homeland Security. And then there is ongoing and continuous work with our partners in the police department and fire department. The public schools has a very good relationship. Dr. Brand and the chiefs, they communicate regularly on a lot of different topics, and it is really, it's such an important topic. But you also learn interesting things. When you say fire code, for example, fire code varies depending on the age of the building, because certain buildings don't have sprinklers. That means the fire code for that building is different than the fire code for a building with sprinklers. So there's a lot of depth that people have to understand, and they've been working very hard through the audit and through those sorts of things to understand the depth of these sorts of issues. It's a topic we need to continuously work on. With regard to the school access topic, there is a concern. Our grounds are open, and there are too many times where principals and teachers have had to interact. They have their class on the playground, and there's a parent there with very small children, or there's an adult there elsewise, and what are you expecting the teacher to do in that moment? And it's another place where teachers are being asked to do more than is necessarily educating and working with their children. So I personally am in favor of some level of appropriate restriction during school hours. Obviously, they're public spaces and should be used as widely as possible. Everyone loves to go see the soccer fields on the weekends, but there could be reasonable limits. Thank you.
I thought I'd start by asking you to reread the question, but I won't do that. I won't do that to you.
Do it.
I would say to start, again, a huge appreciation to Chief Desmond and Kavanaugh and their teams for always being really great partners, and particularly through this exercise. They were generous enough to come to a meeting and talk through it with us, and then participate in the district safety audit, which obviously we can't share all of the details, but the district got really high marks for safety, considering, and we'll bring this back, I think, to the new building, that due to the age of some of our buildings, some of our safety features are lacking. And so our teachers and building staff, and even the town's building staff, have done an incredible job with what they've been given over the years. So with the to the question about restrictions of school grounds during school days, yeah, I don't support an outright ban on using school grounds during the school day. It does certainly bring up some concerns. I think we had considered or discussed potentially a recess time ban. Mm-hmm. Students will be outside from this time to this time, and those. The challenges are sort of getting that information out there and then enforcing it. And so it's more of an idea that needs some work, I think. But ultimately, at the end of the day, one of our main responsibilities as members of the school committee is the safety and security of the students and the staff during the school day. And so it needs to be considered a little bit further, but I think there's some middle ground there, certainly. So, thank you.
Thank you both. That was the end of our question and answer period, and we'll move on to closing statements. Mr. Turner will go first, and he has 90 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. I appreciate all the questions and the time and thought you put into those. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak tonight, and I hope I've helped to convey my passion for public education, my passion for what we need to do for the students of the town. And then the piece I also offer at this point in time, where we are looking towards a school building project and a major investment from the town, a new superintendent, new director of finance, and then also the experience of repeat the budget cycle and all the complexities of that, is I bring experience. And I bring the knowledge that comes from having served, and I think that's going to be really, really critical and valuable in the next 3 years. And I look forward to your support, and I appreciate your vote, and thank you all very much for your time tonight.
Mr. Fennelly?
Thank you. Again, I want to thank WCTV for hosting, the Lowell Sun, the Town Crier, and the Wilmington Apple for the questions, our esteemed moderator for his participation, and of course, Mr. Turner. I think being able to discuss our vision with voters is an important part of local elections. Over the past 6 years, I've worked hard each and every day to make sure the students of the Wilmington Public Schools have access to the best education possible, and that our students, our teachers, and our staff are safe and secure through the school day. And as we've noted, we still have work to do. We've accomplished a lot in that time, and there's still work to do, and I believe the next few months and years are crucial for the direction of this district. Tonight, I've detailed for you what I think the future of the Wilmington Public Schools should look like. I have the experience and the ability to help get that done. My name is Jesse Fennelly. I'm a candidate for re-election to the Wilmington School Committee, and I'm humbly and respectfully asking that you cast one of your votes for school committee for me on April 26th. Thank you, and as always, roll cats.
Thank you. This concludes the school committee portion of candidates tonight. I'd like to again thank our sponsors, WCTV and the Wilmington Apple. I'd also like to thank Mark Kratman, our timekeeper, for helping out with tonight's event. And to Mr. Courier, Ms. Hill, and Mr. Hayes, thank you for your questions and your time this evening. There are 5 races on the ballot of this town for the upcoming town election: a 3-year term on the Shawshene Valley Technical School Committee, a 5-year term on the Housing Authority, a 3-year term on the Housing Authority. In a little bit, we're going to be hearing from the 3 candidates vying for 2 3-year terms on the Select Board, and you just heard from 2 of the 4 candidates vying for 3 3-year terms on the School Committee. Election day is April 26th. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you live in precincts 1, 2, and 3, you will be voting at the new Senior Center. If you live in precincts 4, 5, and 6, you will be voting at the current Town Hall. Early voting has already begun and will continue at the Town Clerk's office at Town Hall through April 23rd. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that we have a town meeting the following Saturday, May 3rd, and a special town meeting within that town meeting. 2 meetings for the price of one, of fun, friendly, and exciting democracy in action. Hope to see you all there. I want to say good luck to our candidates, and stay tuned as Candidates Night will continue after a short break.
Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor. Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor. Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor. Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor. Do evil spirits lurk in your home? Clean the skeletons out of your closets, basement, and garage. Come to Wilmington's Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day on Saturday, May 31st from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., located at the West Intermediate School parking lot off Carter Lane. Cost to Wilmington residents is free unless otherwise noted. Proof of residency is required. For a full list of approved items, how to safely transport the items, and a list of what not to bring, call the Town of Wilmington Public Works Department at 978-658-4481. That's 978-658-4481. Or online, go to the address tinyurl.com/NKKJM3VM. Public notice. Annual water main flushing program. On Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, the Water Division of the DPW will begin its annual water main flushing and valve exercising program. The flushing program will be conducted on Monday through Friday from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. The program will take approximately 8 weeks to complete. Flushing the water mains aids in removing sediments that collect in the pipeline, resulting in improved water quality. Unfortunately, this work may temporarily cause some discolored water, but the water should become clear after running your cold water for a few minutes. The water will remain safe to drink during this program. If you have any questions or problems with your water, please call the DPW Water Division office at 978-658-4711. We wish to thank you in advance for your patience in this endeavor.
Welcome back to 2025 Candidates Night, sponsored by WCTV and the Wilmington Apple. My name is Jonathan Eaton, and I will be the moderator again for tonight's event. Tonight, we're going to hear from candidates vying for your vote at the upcoming town election on April 26th. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. This year, we have 5 races on your town ballot. Gwen Harper-Lawson is running unopposed for a 3-year term on the Shawshene Valley Technical High School Committee. Anne Marie Hill is running unopposed for a 5-year term on the Wilmington Housing Authority. Tom Siracusa is running unopposed for a 3-year term on the Housing Authority. Earlier tonight, you heard from 2 of the 4 candidates vying for 3-3-year terms on the Wilmington School Committee. And in a few moments, we're going to start a debate between the 3 candidates for Select Board vying for 2 3-year terms. Those candidates are Kevin Caira, Stephen Hunt, and Jacob Gearwar. Our media panelists remain Peter Currier from the Lowell Sun, Lizzie Hill from the Wilmington Town Crier, and Robert Hayes from the Wilmington Apple. I'd like to thank Mark Kratman again from the Wilmington-Tewksbury Chamber of Commerce for helping to assist with tonight's event. Let me briefly explain the format for tonight's event. There are 3 components. Each candidate will first have an opening statement and have up to 2 minutes to deliver it. Then our media panelists will deliver 9 questions with a 10th bonus question, courtesy of WCTV, to our candidates, and those candidates will have up to 90 seconds to respond. At my discretion, I may allow another candidate to respond if their name is mentioned during the response of another candidate's answer, but there will be no toleration for personal attacks. Finally, each candidate will make a closing statement of up to 90 seconds. So without further ado, I say let's get right into it. Before tonight's event started, via random draw, we have decided the order. Mr. Caira will go first. None of the questions have been shared in advance. Mr. Caira, your 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jonathan. For the past 9 years, I've been privileged to serve as a member of the Select Board. Together with town employees and scores of dedicated volunteers, we have worked hard to represent Wilmington's best interest. Much has been accomplished over the past 9 years, including the hiring of a new town council, town manager, finance director, and the achievement of the town's AAA bond rating. We are addressing and improving our infrastructure, such as the Butters Road Bridge Replacement Project, Woburn Street, Lowell Street intersection, the Route 38 corridor, the expansion of the Wildwood Cemetery, the lease of over 8 acres of recreational space on Lowell Street, and we provided funding for roof and window replacements at the Hardin Tavern. There is a new senior center, there will be a new town hall and school administration building, and hopefully a new elementary school. Since being on the board, I voted to reduce the tax burden on Wilmington residential taxpayers, and recognizing the need for affordable housing, I advocated for the town's inclusionary bylaw. I supported the creation of a substance abuse coordinator position, and I've been a strong supporter of veteran services in public safety. Town Manager Eric Slagle publicly recognized me for identifying town property at the Regional Health Center as the location of the new fire substation. I've served on numerous committees, including the Tax Increment Finance Committee, which enabled a major expansion of Analog Global Headquarters, the Town Hall and School Administration Building Committee, and the MSBA Wildwood School Building Committee. As chairman of the board, I worked with the legislative delegation and MBTA administration to initiate the construction of a new platform at North Wilmington train station. And I recommended the establishment of the Economic Development Committee and the Ring Committee. I am pleased to participate in this evening's forum, and I look forward to a respectful exchange of ideas.
Mr. Hunt?
Hi, my name is Stephen Hunt. I was born and raised in Wilmington, went to Wilmington Public Schools, decided to raise my family in Wilmington, worked for the town of Wilmington for 22 years at the DPW, where I was the union president for 10 years, negotiated 3 contracts with the town, so I have some insight into how conservative and well-managed the town is with their funding. I coached hockey at Shawshene Tech, and one of the things that I can promise voters of Wilmington is if I don't know, if I'm not well-versed on a subject, I will learn everything I can, talk to as many people as possible, whether it's fellow board members, people in town, town manager, and I'll be well prepared to vote on any subject that comes up. Thank you.
Mr. Gearwar.
Good evening. unlike the two candidates next to me, I did not grow up here. And even though I have been here for 14 years, by Wilmington standards, that makes me new. But I think it's a positive thing because I come in with a fresh, independent perspective on what the town's dealing with. During my career in corporate finance, I learned lots of things. I managed billion-dollar budgets, did strategic planning, and negotiated complex contracts. But the most important thing I learned is how to approach decisions, which is objectively, which is gathering all the information. It's running the numbers, and most importantly, it's about getting all the facts. All too often, people make decisions based on hearsay and misinformation. That is something I will not do. There are three things I feel very strongly about. The first is we need to increase commercial development to reduce residential taxes. As an example, Burlington currently collects $50 million more than Wilmington in commercial taxes. That allows them to not only have the lowest residential tax rate, but also pay for things like new schools. To be clear, I'm not saying we should be like Burlington, but I do think we have a great opportunity to build the commercial tax base and give residential taxpayers some relief. I also think residents want those businesses. When the Economic Development Committee did their survey, people overwhelmingly wanted to see restaurants, retail, and entertainment. I also strongly support the schools and the teachers. To me, there's nothing more important than setting up our children for success, and that starts with schools. Last, I think the town should be proactive in building senior housing. The master plan had a suggestion that the town either sell or enter into a long-term lease a town property to build senior housing. I support that. I think it's a win-win for senior housing and revenue to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the question and answer portion of tonight's event. And the first question comes from Peter Courier of the Lowell Sun, and Mr. Caira will respond first.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Sorry to give you a school-related question first thing off the bat. But obviously later this year, in a future election and town meeting, the town of Wilmington will consider whether to build a new elementary school to largely build as replacement for the Wildwood Elementary School. So, simply put, would you support this new building project and why?
Yes. Clearly, the town is in need of a new elementary school, and I would absolutely support it. I've served on the MSBA Wildwood School Committee since its inception, 4.5 years now. Also, when I was chairman of the board in 2018, we began the process of statement of interest to the MSBA. Didn't take effect then until 2019, and then the committee came into effect around 2020. I've been on that committee the entire time, supportive of a new elementary school. We need it, and we should embrace it. We have, right now, the budget came out that it's about $173 million, I believe. The MSBA is coming out with their offset on June 18th. And then it's going to go to a town meeting and then to a debt exclusion vote in September. I believe it's September 13th and 18th. So the taxpayers ultimately will make that final decision, but I, for one, am in support of a new elementary school.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes, I'm in support of the new school. The newest schools in town are the high school and the middle school. Other than that, the last school built was in '69. I believe that was Shaw Sheen School. So the children are our future. We need to take care of them. We need to have modern schools for them to go to. Originally, I was sort of on the fence on it. I spoke to the town manager, and he showed me his plan for the future all the way out to, I believe it was 2066, where he was going to be able to build new buildings without constantly having to raise taxes. After I spoke to him about that, then I was 100% on board for the new school.
Mr. Gearwar.
As you can probably tell from my opening statement, yes, I support the new school. I just want to clear up a couple of things that are being said. The school is now costing $250 million, and it's not going to double people's taxes. In reality, doing one school is the most cost-effective way to do a project. I've done many large-scale projects over my career, and doing them in phases like some people want, it just doesn't work. This will work out in the long run to be the most cost-effective way. And just so people realize, even at $170 million, sounds like a lot of money. just down the street, the Fox Hill Elementary School replacement's going to start. It's for only 300 kids, and it's $100 million. So if we were going to make that for 700, it'd be over $200 million. So yes, I support it, but I wanted to clear up some things on the financial side. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt's going to receive the second question. It's from Lizzie Hill from the Wilmington Town Crier.
Thank you. At the upcoming town meeting, residents will vote on a proposed multifamily zoning overlay district. Do you want to see Wilmington comply with the MBTA Communities Act? And if not, how else can the select board be involved in promoting lower housing costs?
I do not want to see the town comply with that. There's positive and negatives to it. I mean, it would bring more tax revenue to the town, help local businesses, and probably avoid the state taking funding away from us. But it's also going to put a strain on fire, police, schools possibly. I know our schools aren't overflowing with students now, but can't really plan for the future. Bringing all that housing in, it could. And as small as it is, Wilmington's a congested town. There's just so much traffic, so that would I even add more. There's a reuse committee being formed that's already started to look into buildings. Maybe that's a way that Wilmington could find some low-income housing, work with a developer. Maybe the town could give a school or a property up, the developer builds it, and then it, could be a little bit lower income for the people that want to live there.
Mr. Gearwar.
I also oppose it. I mean, the whole line general is a huge overstep by the government, by the Commonwealth. And so on principle, I dislike it. Now, the Supreme Court limited our options by unanimously ruling against Milton, but we still have options. Some people are aware multiple towns have already filed exemptions for unfounded mandate. They've actually already had the preliminary injunction hearing, so it's moving its way forward. So there's absolutely no reason to vote yes on May 3rd, considering the deadline's in July. And we'll see how it plays out, and if I'm not sure what the select board's doing, because the most recent things have been an executive session regarding a pension exemption, but I hope to see what they say at the next meeting. Thanks.
Mr. Caira.
Yes, thank you for the question. I am opposed to this MBTA housing initiative. I just don't understand it's being forced upon communities that are in train station areas, and we're one of them. They want to put in 1,248 new units into Wilmington. They have it as an unfunded mandate, okay, and that's on public services. So that's something that we would have to absorb. They're not even including the existing complexes that we have now that are adjacent to our train stations, or the ones that are going to be built, like at Princeton Properties, and there's one at West Street, and there are a few others, that they're not even including those in the count. It's bad legislation. It should be something that we do not vote for. We are looking into exemptions on our March 24th meeting. We talked about that. The problem is we'll lose grant money. That's one of the problems. The other problem is the state can come in and rezone it as they choose to, and not take what our planning board did for us. And I have to compliment them.
All right, we're
as
at time,
for what
Mr.
they
Caira,
did.
so we're going to have to move on to the next question.
Thank you.
Will be asked by Robert Hayes of the Wilmington Apple, and Mr. Gearwar will be going first.
So good evening, Mr. Gearwar. So one of, if not the biggest responsibility of the Select Board is hiring a town manager. New town manager Eric Slagle has been with the town for the past 10 months or so. The Select Board recently conducted its annual evaluation of the town manager. The results were summarized at the past Monday meeting by outgoing Select Board Chair Greg Bendel. Bendel praised Slagle for being a stabilizing force, for improving morale among employees, for his preparedness for meetings, his professional demeanor, diving right in and building relationships with key stakeholders in the community, and having a vision for the town that's in alignment with the Select Board's. Bendel told Slagle the board thought he was doing a good job and to keep up the good work. He mentioned that board members provided positive scores and feedback with lots of words of encouragement. So the bottom line is the board clearly has confidence in the new town manager. So the question is, how well do you think town manager Slagle has performed over his past 10 months? Can you identify what you see as one of his greatest strengths, as well as one area in which you think he could improve?
So first of all, I think he's done a great job, although I'm not on the select board, so I haven't been working with him directly very often. But from my position on the Economic Development Committee, I have met with him multiple times to go over economic-related items. I find him to be extremely intelligent, understand everything that's going on. I think his law degree background really helps on a lot of things, and hopefully we save some money on outside legal fees. But for me, what I'm really impressed with is that he has a real vision for the future of Wilmington, and that he's looking very far in advance. As Mr. Hunt mentioned, he was looking out multiple years. And so when you look at the school, we just all said we wanted the north side, and then next comes the west side, actually, where I live. And he's already looked ahead that I think it was 2036, we got to stop paying in the extra money to pension. It'll free up 12 to 13 million. We don't have to have a debt exclusion. Like that type of vision, I don't think we, in my opinion, I didn't see it before. So it's a real, and when you go to town hall, because I've been there a lot lately, the vibe is actually pretty good. And even changing the hours to match basically every other town so that people don't have to, leave work early one day has been great. As far as the one negative, I'm not sure I already have one, to be honest with you, based on my experience so far. Thank you.
Mr. Caira.
Sounds like Mr. Gearwar got it all. Yeah, I don't have a negative for Mr. Slagle. He's done an outstanding job in the 9 months that he's been here. He's built relationships. He's gotten his department heads together. The whole atmosphere in town hall is changed for the better. I think he's just done a great job, and it was summarized by Mr. Bendel nicely. So, I'm good with what he's been doing.
Mr. Hunt?
I have no negative feedback about him. I mean, the couple of dealings I had with him, I mentioned it earlier. I really, he really impressed me with his vision so far out. I have dealings with the past two town managers. The one we just had, I don't think had much vision like that at all. The previous one, I thought had some. He's come down to our shop before I retired from the DPW. He's really friendly, and again, like the other two gentlemen mentioned, the atmosphere at the town hall is totally different. I mean, I have some friends that work there. It's night and day since he came in. The hours thing changing, I think it's a huge thing for the town. I tried to get that with the previous town manager. He didn't want to do it. If you look at it, the people that work at the town hall technically can't use the town hall if they don't extend the day, because their hours end at 4:30. He came right in, and that was, I guess, one of the first things he wanted to change. It took him a little while. But I've heard nothing but great things about him from the people that work for him, with him, and other departments when he comes over to see, just the regular people. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question tonight comes from Peter Courier from The Sun, and Mr. Caira will respond first.
All right, thanks, John. Relating to an upcoming town meeting warrant article, would you support local term limits? And if the answer is yes, what would you say would be an appropriate limit for the number of terms one person should serve?
I would not support the article for term limits on volunteers. It's hard enough to get volunteers to run for office. As you've seen the last several elections, there've been no one stepping forward. We need people to step forward to run for these positions, and that generates camaraderie. That generates different ideas for the community. So I'm not for term limits on volunteers. We're trying to get volunteers to come on committees and commissions that we have. If you want to look at term limits on state and federal elected officials, I would consider that. But term limits is the elections, right? So that's how that works. But not on volunteers, no.
Mr. Hunt.
No, I disagree with that. I'm going to sound like Kevin over here, but it's all volunteer work, and it's hard enough to get the people to volunteer. So when you get people, if you don't like how they're performing, we have elections every year, and you can vote them out. But again, it's really hard to get people to volunteer for the smallest things. I mean, I coach a hockey team. We try to get some parents just to, do a 50-50. They don't even want to do that. So I'm not quite sure where the people that want to propose these think they're going to get all these people to volunteer time to run for select board. Like Kevin mentioned, the last couple of years, they've had 2 people, they were run unopposed. So I'm totally against that.
Mr. Gearwar.
So fundamentally, I agree with term limits. Definitely at the federal level and the state level. When you get to the local level, it gets a little more complicated for a lot of the reasons they've said. But to put in perspective, at the federal level, I'd say 18 years, so 3 terms in the Senate type of thing, right? So a lot longer than 6 years, as the article has. So just on the basis of if you were even going to do term limits on a local level, it's way too short. It'd have to be 5 terms, something long enough that most likely they would probably want to retire from the board by then anyway. But I think where something like that misses the mark is it's only addressing elected members, so school board, select board, right? But you have all these other committees, whether it's the finance committee or the planning board, they're actually appointed positions, right? So at least to your point, you can get voted out. Those you can't get voted out of because they're not voted on, right? They're appointed by people. And so if you were really trying to make a change, you need longer term limits and you have to include some of the committees. I did a little bit of research because I was curious. There's only 3 towns that seem to have it on elected officials, but a significant number of towns actually have it on their finance committee, including Concord and Natick and others. So as it's written, no. If something came back I might be open to it, but this one, no.
Our 5th question tonight comes from Lizzie Hill of the Wilmington Town Crier, and Mr. Hunt will go first.
Okay. How can the board better support economic development in town, considering issues like open storefronts on Route 38 and the commercial tax rate?
That's probably a good question for you, huh? I'll be honest, I'm not too versed on that. I would have to, if I was lucky enough to win, I would talk to the Economic Development Board. There is storefronts that are empty. It's not generating any revenue for the town. So I don't know if you could lower the tax rates to bring in businesses, but the town definitely needs to fill up the empty buildings, whether it's restaurants, type entertainment. But I would think working with the Economic Development Committee would be the best way to find out what's best for the town and how to go about it.
Mr. Gearwar.
So at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control. So you can't make a landowner sell his property, and you can't make a developer put in a Trader Joe's, sorry, like it's kind of a joke around here. But what we can control, and the biggest one is zoning, right? If something's barren, but it's residential, nothing's going to be built there. And even sometimes there's somebody owns a property and they want to put it to something else, so you got to rezone it. And a lot of times those are actually getting shot down at town meeting, right? So first of all, zoning is the most important. If you remember, a couple of years ago, we actually changed the zoning to allow a brew pub because a brew pub wanted to come here, but at the time they're not allowed. Then there's things like bylaws. Just as a quick example, not taking a stance on it, like we prohibit marijuana dispensaries. Tewksbury doesn't, and they have a bunch being built. So sometimes your bylaws get in the way. And then lower down is your rules and regulations. So if you looked at the rules and regulations for restaurants with an alcohol license, I think most viewers would be surprised that we actually have a ban on dancing still on the books. Most towns also require food, but that's all they say. We require a minimum of 3 entrees that include either fish or unground beef, right? So if you look at Treehouse in Tewksbury, they only serve pizza. They wouldn't even look to come to Wilmington. So first of all, we need to get our zoning right, we need to check our bylaws, and we need to update some of these rules and regulations, which I'm working on the committee, right? And then at the end of the day, you need to change the perception, which is through branding, and you need to look like you're open for business. And I don't think we have the best reputation of being open for business. So there's a lot of work to do, but that's how I think we do it. Thank you.
Mr. Caira.
Yes. I think we are open for business. I think we are doing a good job. There are a lot of businesses that are contacting our town administration and looking to come into Wilmington. Wilmington is a desirable place to come to. 4 exits off of 93. It's a great tax base. And you mentioned vacant buildings. I don't see a lot of vacant buildings, to be quite honest with you. I do see some construction going up near the McDonald's. I think it's a new Chipotle. There was construction. There's a new Starbucks that just came in. We have some warehouse spaces that have been built, all tax income coming in. And even if a building is vacant, it's still paying its taxes to the community. Let's not forget that. But one of the biggest employers is Analog Devices, and they put in a $143 million expansion and added 600 employees over there. So Wilmington is in a good situation with its commercial base, I believe.
Our sixth question comes from Robert Hayes of the Wilmington Apple. Mr. Gearwar will answer first.
So, Mr. Gearwar, this is somewhat of a follow-up from my first question, and actually all three candidates sort of touched on this in their responses. So Town Manager Slagle recently unveiled a long-range building plan for Wilmington. On the school side, it calls for a new pre-K to 5 school for the north side of town, which will be in front of voters this fall. It calls for a new pre-K to grade 5 school for the west side of town in 2036. And then looking much further out, a new or renovated middle school in 2056 and a new or renovated high school in 2066. And on the town side, it calls for a North Wilmington fire substation in the immediate future, in the coming years, as well as a feasibility study for a new DPW barn in 2029 and a feasibility study for a library renovation in 2032. And that, of course, is on top of the recently opened new Wilmington Senior Center and the soon-to-be-opened Wilmington Town Hall and School Administration Building, plus a potential new construction or renovation to the Shawsheen Tech in the next 5 to 6 years, as they've recently been admitted into the MSBA school building program. And on top of that, we're looking to acquire the Sharappa Farm for municipal purposes, perhaps active and passive recreation. So the question, this long-range plan has only been public for about a month or two now, but do you have any initial reactions towards it? And big picture, how will you balance the town's facilities needs without overly burdening the taxpayer?
Yep. So if you go back to my opening statement, I really think we need to push for more commercial development. If you think about it right now, we get in between commercial and industrial about $40 million in taxes. And like I said, Burlington's over 90. And it's not just malls and glamorous things. If you look like 900 Salem Street that Amazon's going in, it's assessed at $25 million. That's $700,000 in new taxes every year, and it was just a pile of dirt. And that's how big some of these things are. So first of all, I do think we need to work through that. I think we should sell or lease one of those properties for the senior housing I mentioned and then bring some money back in. And I think on some of the properties we have, we do need to look at potentially monetizing some of them over time. There's going to be a lot of them. Now, I think we need to redo the facility master plan because it's completely out of date. The buildings are in the wrong places. It was supposed to be 4 consolidated schools. We're doing 2. So I think there's a lot of work to do there. But for me, it's more of, can we monetize any town property there? And can we increase revenue elsewhere? Like, we don't get any hotel revenue like other towns. We don't have any hotels. Their meal taxes are low. And so I think there's ways to raise revenue. That's going to be my general approach. Thank you.
Mr. Caira.
Yes. Would you mind repeating the question? No, just kidding.
I know you.
You know, and Mr. Slagle just gave his first budget. He gave a conservative budget. Our budget is $152 million. We have free cash that was just certified of $43 million. And our capital stabilization fund is around $13 million. So he has that focused out in order to do the projects that he is projecting to do in the future. And as revenue comes in, as Mr. Gearwar said, when it comes to commercial growth, that too will help towards his projects. So I'm confident in what he's doing in the long-range aspect of the buildings that are needed. We do need to look at another review of the buildings to make sure that we're getting them done in the appropriate manner. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt.
I was really impressed with his plan going all the way out to 2066. I mean, Wilmington is in need of new buildings. I agree with Jacob that we need to find a way to bring in more revenue. You know, he mentioned a hotel. That would be, I mean, I'm not sure if it would ever happen, but we do need to focus on bringing in revenue. We could use some of the buildings, like the Woburn Street, I believe, is part of going to be the new school. We could find a way to lease that out, sell that property to bring in some revenue. That could go back to the housing issue that I mentioned, whether it's for seniors or, you know, affordable care housing. You could work with a developer to bring in, you know, build some housing there. But I think a lot of it has to do with commercial and finding a way to bring more revenue to the town.
Mr. Caira, you're going to be answering first on our 7th question, and it comes from Peter Courier from the Lowell Sun.
Thank you. So Wilmington, like any city or town in Massachusetts or really anywhere, does not exist in a vacuum. It is affected by pressures from the federal government, the state government, really even the global economy, if you want to think about it that far. So what do you see as the greatest outside pressure being faced by Wilmington, and how do you think the select board should approach that pressure?
That's a great question. It's the federal funding that funnels down to the state, and then the state funding. Now, where potentially could lose grants or mass work grants if we don't go with the MBTA housing initiative, and that could hurt us, right? But that's why we have built up free cash that would help us to offset those lost grants that would come down from the state government. You know, it's a difficult time right now that's going on with the tariffs, and we look at, you know, the building projects that are coming in and how that's going to affect the bottom line. There are contingencies in there as well, so that kind of worries me a bit. That's going on right now federally, but it's the state grant funds that may not come our way that's bothersome to me. So that's why I'm okay with the free cash of $43 million right now.
Mr. Hunt?
I agree. I think the MBTA housing is the biggest pressure the town's facing right now. I mean, I've been hearing that other towns could lose like funding for special needs, and that's the worst. I mean, to me, it almost seems like, I don't want to say that the state is trying to force something down our throat, but when you start to take away funding for education purposes and for special needs, to me, that's it's almost inexcusable to do something like that. Even losing federal funding, it's the biggest problem for Wilmington would be losing any type of funding, whether it's federal or state.
Mr. Gearwar?
Well, I agree with both of them on there, right? And you're getting pressure from the top and the bottom. And what I mean is you're losing money and your costs are going up, right? So you're kind of getting squeezed in the middle there, which is very unfortunate. Now, as far as, honestly, you asked what the select board could do about it. Not much in reality, right? We can write to our senators, we can write to our representatives, but they're already in the minority party. So they're not going to be effective in actually changing any of this stuff. So unfortunately, as I guess I'm the only one to answer, I don't think there's a lot, as the select board, you can really do to dictate some of that stuff from the federal level, especially with our representation in the minority.
No, I agree.
Our 8th question comes from Lizzie Hill of the Wilmington Town Crier, and Mr. Hunt, you'll be answering first.
In your opinion, has the select board been transparent enough, and how could they be more transparent?
I think they've been very transparent. I mean, I know some committees have been accused of being not as transparent as they should be, but I think the select board has been very transparent. I mean, other than executive session, everything they do is on TV, so you can watch it. You can go to the meetings. I mean, every one of them is accessible to talk to. I mean, I've talked to Kevin, I've talked to every one of the select people, members of the select board, and they just make it so easy to ask questions and get responses from.
Mr. Gearwar?
I think generally good. I also think we're put in a bit of a tough situation based on the actions of some residents, and so there isn't as much back and forth on public comments as there used to be. One thing I did notice is I thought for a while a lot of the communications were being posted with the agenda, but they haven't been lately when I've looked. So I think that's one area to improve, to have them posted prior to the meeting in there as opposed to just reading them in the meeting, perhaps. In general, I haven't had a problem with any of the executive session stuff. Immediately, I would have liked to have heard the exemption talk. It's been 2 meetings now that it's been brought up vaguely, but not of the actual conversation around it. And so I would, like I said, I hope at least it's out there by the time we're coming up on a May 3rd vote, because I think voters need to know the direction of the board prior to voting. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think we've been totally transparent. But to get to Mr. Gearwar's point about posting of agenda items and that nature, we actually get our agenda Friday before the Monday meeting. So sometimes that posting of those materials is an issue and may not go out until Friday, and people don't see them. I mean, we get our packet just 2 days or 3 days before the meeting in some cases. But as for public comments, I think that we try to do our best when someone comes in and is reasonable and asks questions and doesn't just lobby out something for the sake of doing that. As for the exemptions, that is under executive session. It's hard to talk. Obviously, we can't bring out issues on executive sessions if it's legal issues. But that's an ongoing matter that the board is handling in executive session and will be eventually brought forward in open session. But I think the board has been very transparent and very accessible to all the residents.
Our 9th question tonight comes from Robert Hayes of the Wilmington Apple. Mr. Gearwar will go first.
So, Mr. Gearwar, I asked you about future building projects. Now I want to ask you about vacant and soon-to-be vacant town buildings. Buildings like the old Bazell Senior Center, the current Town Hall, the Roman House, the former Wilmington Arts Council building, the Wildwood School, and potentially the Woburn Street School. So the Select Board recently formed a building reuse committee to offer recommendations to the Select Board about what to do with some of these buildings. The reuse committee has been meeting for a couple of months now. They're initially focusing their energy on the Bazell Senior Center. I believe they're planning a community survey and a public forum. They're very early in that process. So without the benefit of all those recommendations that will eventually be coming, do you think the town should be investing money in maintaining or even upgrading some of these vacant and soon-to-be vacant buildings? If so, which ones, and what are some of the municipal or community uses you'd envision for them?
Thanks for the question. To kind of go back to something I brought up earlier, I think before we make any decisions on them, we need to update the facility master plan, just so people are aware, the town hall is going to go to the Swain School, and then the senior center is going to go to the old town hall, and then St. Dorothy's was going to be senior housing, et cetera. And we were supposed to have 4 elementary schools, now we would have 2. So the whole thing is outdated. But I don't want to make a decision on the old senior center without understanding what we're doing with everything. I just think that's too short-sighted for me. I do long-term financial planning. We need to look at the whole thing. Let's assume the schools are going to be done, and when those are going to be done, those facilities are coming online. As I already said, one of them, I hope, is for senior housing. I know there's talk of potentially a community center for people to be at. And I honestly think we might want to sell some of them or potentially lease some of them. But I do not think we should be spending really any money doing any, especially upgrades, let alone maybe some preventative maintenance so it doesn't completely shut down. But until we have an encompassing plan, I actually don't want us to be spending really any money. Thanks.
Mr. Caira.
Yes, great question. Thank you. I am in support of a reuse committee, and each of the members of the board appointed an individual to serve on that committee. But they're guided by state and local bylaws to see if there's a municipal need for that building. And if there's not a municipal need for the building, then they would deem it surplus. and it would go through a procurement process, which is totally transparent to the community, and that's the way the process would work, right? So that's what they're deciding on now. Is the Bizzell School, is there a purpose for it? First and foremost, if there's a town department that needs that facility, they would get the first opportunity for it, right? So they're talking about the veteran services going over to where the old town hall was, which is the arts building that used to be the town hall. That we're talking about the Wildwood becoming a new addition to the cemetery. Maybe the Woburn Street for senior housing. The Roman House, I think, has outlived its useful life. It would be very difficult to upgrade that, for those individuals who want to keep historical buildings. That would be a tough one to keep. And then you have the Bizzell School that they're going through now. So there's a lot going on that we'll see what happens.
Mr. Hunt?
I think the reuse committee is a great committee that was formed. I'd like to see him looking into more than just one building right now, get a bigger plan. It was like 10 years ago, I was talking to someone that works in town, and they were saying the Roman House would take almost $1 million to renovate. That was 10 years ago. I wouldn't recommend putting any money into any building unless the town was going to be able to use it. And not that you'd see a return on your investment, but I just wouldn't throw good money after bad money into buildings that aren't sustainable. I think we have buildings in town that if they're vacant, we can use for, like people were saying, housing, elderly housing, whether it's affordable housing. I'm just not a big fan of spending money for buildings that may not be usable.
Thank you. That was our 9th question for tonight. We do have a late-breaking bonus question, courtesy of WCTV. It will be read by Robert Hayes at the Wilmington Apple. Mr. Caira will go first.
And just so Mr. Caira is not caught off guard, Mr. Caira is also going to go first for closing statements. So sorry, you have to go first back to back. So late breaking. Here we go. So WCTV, Wilmington's public access station, is a nonprofit that has long been funded solely by a declining revenue stream, cable fees from Comcast and Verizon subscribers here in Wilmington. WCTV currently receives no taxpayer funding and nothing from internet, Wi-Fi, or streaming services, even as those have replaced cable for many residents. Over the past 5 years, public access funding in Massachusetts has dropped by an average of 30%, and it's closer to 40% when you include inflation, while the cost of operating in the media space has skyrocketed. So despite this, WCTV continues to provide great government transparency, professional-grade coverage of local school and community events, free training and equipment access for residents, and year-round educational programming. WCTV is the only place in Wilmington where students can learn critical video and multimedia skills. Other towns, I'm not going to read them all, there's a long list, have begun providing supplemental funding to support their stations, recognizing both the value they bring and the high cost of replicating their services in-house. So the question is, would you support Wilmington providing supplemental funding to WCTV to ensure its continued operation and stability? And I'm told that if nothing changes, and I don't want to sound alarmist, but in the next 3 years, there may not be a WCTV. So, Mr. Caira.
Yeah, I believe that the Board of Selectmen sent out a letter recently in support of a bill that's up in the State House for more funding for local cable access. And we wrote and signed in support of that. I would have to think on this because it's going to affect the taxpayer. I would have to have conversations with the Finance Committee and with Town Manager before I would come out and support or not support to see where it is and how it would affect the bottom line. But it's open. It's open for me to certainly look at, and that's the way I do with everything. It's I want to see all the points of views and and the positives and the negatives, and then make an independent decision for the best interests of Wilmington.
Mr. Hunt?
I think WCTV does a great service for the town of Wilmington. Much like Kevin, I would have to look at, if the Wilmington voters were in favor of it. We've been talking for an hour about different buildings going to be built and tax consequences to the people in Wilmington. So I would want to hear their say, if they were in favor of it. I'd also talk to the town manager, see where it fits in, if it could fit into the budget. But again, I would go back to what the voters in Wilmington would want.
Mr. Gearwar?
I think WCTV does a great job. But kind of similar, but maybe a little bit different, I'd want to sit down and literally go through the books. I mean, that's what I do. And I look at your revenue streams. Are you missing anything? Is there any contracts? How can you raise money outside of the town first? I mean, I'm sure what you guys do for fundraising, and I don't even know close to how much money we're talking about, right? And so I'd want to go through that whole exercise, especially if we have 3 years, and figure it out. And then ultimately, depending on the numbers and if we can't find a way around it, I would be open to bringing it, but I would want the voters to also approve it and be okay with it. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the question and answer portion of tonight's event. We'll now move on to closing statements. Candidates will have up to 90 seconds to make their closing statements to you, the voters, and we'll start first with Mr. Caira.
Thank you. First, I want to thank WCTV, Jonathan, the panelists, and my fellow candidates for participating in tonight's debate. I believe that each one of us has an obligation to help our community. When I first sought public office, I did so because I believe my experience in government service and my many years of volunteer activity would enable me to be a positive influence on the direction of our community. I know what it takes to forge consensus among people with diverse viewpoints. If re-elected to the Select Board, I will continue to conduct myself both in public and private, as I have all my life, civil in tone, respectful to others, and tolerant of the wide variety of opinions. I will continue to be a strong, independent voice on the Select Board. Residents can be assured that every decision I make will be what I believe is in the best interest of the town of Wilmington. I am honored and privileged to have been given the opportunity to serve Wilmington as a member of the Select Board. I don't have all the answers, but what I do have is an honest and sincere desire to continue my commitment of service as your selectman. I hope that you will consider giving me one of your 2 votes on April 26th. Thank you.
Mr. Hunt?
I would like to thank everyone that was involved in putting tonight on. I'm sure it was a benefit to the voters of Wilmington. When I coach hockey and I meet my team for the first time in the fall, I tell them that they need to be respectful to me, but I need to earn their respect as a coach. So on April 26th, I'm asking you for your vote so I can earn your respect and trust to do what's right for the town of Wilmington every day. Thank you.
Mr. Gearwar?
I would also like to thank everyone involved tonight and the people you can't see up here behind the scenes. They've done a great job. I actually hope the viewers at home have enjoyed it. I thought this was a good conversation, and you got an idea how we differ on certain items. And I hope you've come to realize and understand how I view things and how I approach things. I'm actually going to spend the rest of the time encouraging you to vote. In the local town election, typically we get about 5% turnout. And at the town meeting, it's even less. There's times you barely have a quorum. And I think people forget sometimes that ultimately the select board doesn't make the real big decisions on if you're doing the substation or you're approving the budget. You do. And our votes carry the same weight as everybody out there. And so it's so important. I know it's on a Saturday, but they are going to have childcare. If you want to be in a separate room with your child, you can actually vote from the other room. That's new this year. Obviously, you can't make it on the 26th for the local election because you're away on school vacation, which, for the record, I want to go on record, I was hoping to come up. I would move that. Right now, it has to be the 4th April. I just think it doesn't make sense, and we should move with that. But to get back to it, so please go out there and vote. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed watching. Have a good night.
This concludes the 2025 Candidates Night. I'd like to thank our candidates for coming and participating and sharing their thoughts and ideas. I'd like to thank our sponsors, WCTV and the Wilmington Apple, and once again, Mark Kratman, our timekeeper, for his assistance this evening. Our panelists, Mr. Currier, Ms. Hill, and Mr. Hayes, thank you for your time and your questions. There are 5 races on the ballot for your town election this year. A 3-year term on the Shawshene Valley Technical High School Committee, a 3-year term on the Wilmington Housing Authority, a 5-year term on the Wilmington Housing Authority. You heard earlier tonight from 2 of the 4 candidates seeking 3 3-year terms on the Wilmington School Committee, and you just heard from the 3 candidates vying for 2 3-year terms on the Wilmington Select Board. The election this year is on Saturday, April 26th. Polls will open at 8 a.m. and will close at 8 p.m. Early voting has already begun at the town clerk's office and will continue through April 23rd. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that we have an annual town meeting and a special town meeting the following Saturday, May 3rd, at 9 a.m. at the high school. We have 2 meetings for the price of one of fun, friendly, and exciting democracy in action, and I hope to see you there. So, good luck to our candidates, and thank you for tuning in. Good night.